Hello, Colonels and Commodores alike, and welcome to a special edition of Wing Commander Secret Operations. Well, Secret Ops, sorry. So this is how this is going to work. If you notice in this thumbnail, this one is titled F0, and that is going to encompass the preview. And then beyond that, it is going to be F1 for episode 1, F2 for episode 2, F3 for episode 3, so on and so forth. So what we're going to be doing is I was turned on this to this fiction, this like fan fiction, or not fan fiction, but like it was stuff that they sent out back then. It was in emails and stuff like that. It was kind of like in between episodes for special operations. And the way the special operations worked is that it was released in episodes rather than a whole game. So it's like DLC before DLC was DLC, but it was free. So, okay. But this is something that was shown to me on Wing Commander CIC News, that website. And it has this whole like thing mapped out. So what I've decided to do, and this is a bit of a project, but if you're watching this now, then obviously the first part is out. In between the episodes, in separate parts, I am going to do a little bit of creative editing using voice creators or vocal creators or whatever you want to call it, and myself. And I am going to act out or bring to life all of these text things. Now, it's not going to be crazy, like, we're not going to have acting and all that other stuff, but it will at least be spoken. I'll probably do some pictures and stuff like that, but that's what's going on here. Now, these fiction parts will not be a part of, the Wing Commandathon. However, I will put these fictions in the actual Wing Commander Secret Ops playlist. So if you're looking through the Wing Commandathon playlist and you're like, where's the fiction stuff? It's not in there. It's in the actual Wing Commander Secret Ops playlist. So anyway, with that all being said, there's quite a bit to get through here. So I'm going to get right into it. If you have any questions, please comment below and I will answer your questions. I hope I explained it well. And let's get in to the Secret Operation fiction.
T.C.S. Midway Pilot Division, Office of Space Force Human Resources, Miranda Day reporting. A request for personnel has been relayed to this office from the Krieger Starbase CIS Operations Liaison. Cerberus is slated to begin operations on 2681.63. Between now and then, Midway will return to Sol System for refit and a tour of the taxpaying colonies. We have been asked to acquire the best pilots from the flight crew aboard Midway and have them transferred to Cerberus before Midway reaches Jupiter. First Lieutenants Lance Casey C26354 and Jean Stiletto TALV RTC 14322, along with Major Carl Spider Bowen C08992 have been notified of their change of orders. By 2681.61, all should be en route to the Courage system to board Cerberus in time for her maiden voyage. First Lieutenants Terrence 0 O'Hearn C26201 and Max Maestro Garrett C26367 are slated to complete escort duty for repair teams on Lachlan 5 by 2681.60. They will thereafter be notified of new orders and will be sent to rendezvous with Cerberus immediately prior to her first maneuvers. Midway's CAG provided the highest recommendations for these pilots. This assures that this closely knit team will easily accomplish all escort, advisory, and testing duties. Loyally, Miranda Day, Director of Human Resources / Pilot Division. For transcripts of the original orders and order manifests for this server, contact the reading office of TCIS Main Operations on Jupiter Station.
The T.C.S. Midway is scheduled to return home as part of a sector-wide tour, beginning with a Confederation military reception at the Jupiter station, after the terrible conflict that has left over 2 million dead and 100,000 military and civilians missing in action. all of humankind are breathing a well-earned sigh of relief. The initial reception will feature keynote speaker Governor Cavazos, as well as Admiral Ryak and Commander Patricia Drake. The Commander Air Group for the Midway. Executives from Botic Enterprises will be on hand to discuss the launch of the Confederation's newest weapon against terror, the Cerberus. This quick response military vessel will be put to work keeping the peace in the systems hottest hit by the alien menace. Although the reception is highly classified and restricted to official invite only, Confederation representatives have assured ISDN staff that a full press package will be made available for download shortly after the proceedings. After the Midway leaves Jupiter, it will make its way straight to Earth, where it will stop at the Terran shipyard Arcology. The governing staff of the Arcology, which is home to more than 200,000, has begun immediate preparations for the arrival. Leon Dwien, managing officiate of the TSY Council, commented at a press conference following the announcement of the Midway's visit. It is a great honor to be a temporary home for such a fine vessel. We will make sure she is up for her victory lap of the nearby systems. All of us owe a debt of thanks to the Midway, and pray she never again need engage in such a conflict. When officiate Dwien was questioned about the recent troubles at the Arcology, and if they posed any safety issues, he responded, "Although some would call it coincidental irony, I believe it only fitting that a vessel, which has overcome tremendous odds, should find a home at a station that has, itself, overcome tremendous difficulties. To all involved with the rebuilding effort following the bombing, this is a validation of all their hard work. We hope that the Arcology and the Midway stand as inspiration to all that face the trials life presents them. With the renewed assistance of Botic Enterprises and Hurston Dynamics personnel, we should be fully prepared for their arrival. The Terran celebration will be held both planet-side and aboard the Arcology in a sector-wide simulcast to be relayed to all outlying sectors the following solar day, as well as speeches from various dignitaries. The event will also feature performances by Girai Ohan and Gillian Tong, among others. There has been no report as to whether the pilots who flew the final missions against the aliens will be present for any of the festivities. ISDN will bring you complete coverage of the event as the time approaches.
I love you so much. It took Gloria, David, and the Helfmans. You remember the Helfmans, don't you? They went with us on the Christmas trip to the Miyahara Nebula Resort to keep me on the ground when I heard the news of your victory. All of us here have had to see the doctor to get our fingers uncrossed. It's been so long since I've been able to send you mail. I kept getting red flag responses and special grab dumps. I know you've been on the line and haven't been able to write back, but I wish you could have gotten a word back to us. Relying on TC News and second-hand military info has been so very stressful. I thought I was prepared for this after living through your father's time in the service. I guess those emotions all came bubbling back up when the Midway engaged the aliens. Then I hear that you are the pilot who helped rout the aliens. You've gotten a medal and a promotion. And your father would be very proud of you. I can feel it. Anyway, I'm just so very glad that those fears were unjustified. Your Aunt Linda and Uncle Rob are as eager as I am for your return home. Now, Lance, I'm certain that will be soon. They can't deny you at least a week of leave to visit your family. We're all preparing a big party. Please be safe. Love, Mom.
What began only a few short weeks ago has ended, and now the citizens of the war-torn systems of Hellespont, Alcor, Tyr, Dakota, Tartarus, Emir, and others have begun the arduous process of rebuilding what was destroyed, with damage estimates at a calculated 10% share of all Terran Confederation sector resources. Officials are moving quickly to establish firm guidelines for labor division. Colonel Julia Novak is in charge of the planning team and spoke briefly at a conference held at the primary mineral processing facility of the Epsilon sector. At the conference, she read the following statement: as people grieve for the loss of loved ones and look to the Terran Confederation for guidance, we wish to assure all citizens that their needs will be seen to. Already we have established reconstruction management facilities on 30 planets and stations scattered throughout the affected sectors. At this time, we are very positive about achieving complete damage assessment and resource allocation within 45 days. At that time, Terran Confederation reconstruction officials will assemble reclamation response teams, and the process can then begin in earnest. We know we shall succeed in rebuilding the lives, homes, and hopes of the citizens of the Confederation as surely as we have defeated the menace which threatened them. Hardest hit by the conflict, Hellespont settlers have voiced concern over what they perceive as the slow response time the Confederation. Governor Millamweir of Hellespont offered the following words to ISDN following Colonel Novak's statement. As is expected, folks around here are a little nervous at having anywhere up to 50% of all vital services cut off. The fear is that the Terran Confederation is moving as fast as it can, and that may not be fast enough to save lives threatened by exposure, starvation, and disease. However, having seen the way the Midway handled the alien threat, I have no doubt that these fears are unnecessary. I appeal to all citizens to be strong and give full cooperation to the Terran Confederation officials that come to assist you. This is no time for bickering and unrest. Let's come together, as we always do, and rebuild our future. Several systems within the Hawking and Argent sectors, well removed from the conflict, have voiced their objections to the steep resource donation estimates. The outspoken and controversial grassroots leader of the Arcadia system, Representative Joshua Iriam, stated that he did not want to see his sector's resources squandered on temporal hotbeds, which offer little to the citizens of the Argent sector other than financial and emotional stress over sectors which are constantly in trouble. How many times must we rebuild before we decide to stop expanding? This engagement and the lives lost should serve as a warning for future expansion. Regardless of the criticism he received after making his comments, Representative Iriam plans to take his concerns to Governor Kav Azos in Seoul. The meeting should occur in 1 solar week from this transmission. For any citizens who has damages they need assessed by Terran Confederation reconstruction officials, please contact your nearest local representative for all pertinent forms. I'm Natalie, for ISDN's Alcor branch.
Lecture transcript, Terran Shipyards, Sol System, F-108A Panther, Class B Space Superiority Fighter. Guest lecture to Confederation Flight Academy, 2681, second semester. Given by Captain Kenny Hotman Hot.
You know, I've had the chance to fly with some really good pilots from both Confed and the border worlds. It's just a real shame that most of them don't fly the Panther to their fullest potential. The Kilrathi Warvets are just as bad about it as Green Rookies, sometimes even worse. After several years of putting your faith in the Hellcat or Excalibur, old flying habits die hard. But times change, and so do the ships you fly. So, having said that, let me give you an overview of the F-108A Panther. The most important feature in Confed's most recent generation of space fighters is the self-articulating nacelle on the Panther and Vampire. So what does that mean? Well, in the case of the Panther, it means that the yaw rate is almost 2 times the rate of its pitch. Let me give you an example. Get into the simulator and run the Panther programs. Orient yourself to some reference point and drop your throttle to 0. Now push down on the stick and count how many seconds it takes for you to get back to your starting position. Then try pushing the stick to the left and count how long it takes. You'll see the difference. Yeah, I know what you're thinking. So what? Well, when you are trying to stay on the tail of an enemy ship or flying a Shelton slide turret run, it can mean the difference between life and death. When an enemy ship pitches up, experienced Panther pilots don't pull back on the stick to follow. Instead, they roll to one side and then turn to keep on the tail of their enemy. Oh yes, you can rank up quite a few kills using that one very simple technique. You can do the same thing when you are stripping enemy turrets. Start a Shelton slide, but don't change your orientation by pulling forward or back on the stick. Just turn. It's faster and you will have more shots on target. Trust me, your bomber wing will love you for it and buy you drinks when you finish the mission. As for the weapons, the Panther can pack a wallop. But be careful, the gun pole is not that much greater than other ship models. The Panther usually has two types of guns. I think the current configurations the Confed dev boys are playing with are the chain ion cannon and cloudburst guns. I've seen a few guys just hold down the trigger to watch the pretty light show the chain ions throw. Then they complain the guns couldn't strip the shields off a jinked salty. Truth is, they're right, the chain ion guns really aren't that good at stripping shields, but they do a decent job at plinking away at armor. Personally, I think that the chain ion cannon is a crutch for aiming. Fire enough bolts at something and even an engineer flying in the simulator at lowest level can hit something. When I fire, I make certain that both the clids and ion bolts fire at the same time. Time your shots and resist the urge to start the light show. You can only get off a few shots before draining your gun's energy pool, but there aren't many fighters that can take those few shots. As for its missiles, you get what you're given. Nowadays, unless you are given some unusual mission-specific loadout, that means 6 Spilum friend or foes and 6 Artemis long-range image recognition missiles. Maybe it's just the advance in fighter technology, but the Pilums don't seem to have the punch they used to during the Kilrathi War. It's best to use them once you have pounded the enemy with guns first. As for the Artemis missiles, they are new and I haven't had a chance to use them under true battle conditions, but I've had a chance to interview several pilots from the Midway and it looks like the Artemis is their new best friend. There really isn't any substitute for experience. All you can do is practice on the simulator until you get your chance. For the next week, I'm told you will all put in 30 hours on the simulators flying the second battle of Kilra. I suggest that you use that time to explore the limits of the ship. I wish you good luck and hope to see you all on flight rosters throughout the Confederation soon.
In time for the T.C.S. Midway's return to Seoul, a new cruiser is being unveiled by the joint military Bardic Enterprises team that constructed her. Although several images have been released of the vessel in action, nearly every other aspect of her abilities remains highly classified. In development for over 10 years, the vessel is a quick-strike heavy cruiser that will initially act as a peacekeeper in the war-torn sectors hit hardest by the alien threat. Although details of the cruiser's specific function, location, and complement has been kept classified up until this point, it is believed that it marks a technological step forward as great as the Midway. A minor bone of contention has arisen amongst conservative members of the governing ranks. This has to do with the name of the cruiser, which is the Cerberus, an ominous moniker that had many at the press conference regarding her activation concerning. The press conference featured the head of the project, Dr. Jacob Hildreth. He acted as coordinating production engineer on the project and had the following to say: names contain the basis of all primary psychological constructs. If a name is referenced with specific imagery, the end result is a host of assumptions about capability and function. This initial judgment is in the minds of any enemy pilots who would think about assaulting the vessel, as well as the pilots assigned to defend her. That is a personal hypothesis I have been exploring. However, the actual motivation for the name was the image of relentless strength and eternal vigilance as embodied by the Guardian of Hades. After all, a cruiser such as Cerberus is intended to guard the interests of Confed and her allies from any aggressive force that dares cross into our space. The religious implications of the name should be balanced by the fact that Cerberus was a mythical creature that is not referenced in any active religious belief. As a symbol, the name holds power, and we are glad to note that this has not been lost on the general public. The rest of the presentation revolved around the subsequent images provided to the press. As we learn more the specifics regarding the capabilities and ultimate function of the vessel, we will keep you informed. This is Kenneth, for ISDN, Miyahira correspondent.
Hey Mom, It's great to hear from you two. I've been worried that the stress of all this might get to you, but I've got a great bunch of pilots with me who kept me out of trouble. So don't worry, I'm safe and sound and plan to stay that way, as long as humanly possible. I'm not allowed to say too much with regulations being what they are, but I do have some bad news. The war isn't over yet. The sectors that bore the brunt of the fighting have seen their fragile infrastructure all but collapse. Confederation Reconstruction Program is going ahead as planned, but in the meantime they're going to need folks to keep the peace and clean out any troublemakers. They canceled leave for me and some of the other pilots. We're scheduled to ship out to serve aboard a different cruiser and help out with this cleanup work. All the details are classified and extremely confidential. Even I don't know exactly what this job will entail yet. I hope you are right about Dad being proud of me. Sometimes it's all more than a little overwhelming. I've seen 2 of Dad's old friends die and lost a few new friends as well. Sometimes I think Dad would be more proud if I'd gone into engineering or biomechanics. Then I get into the cockpit of the fighter and I know that's just a dream. Sometimes it felt like he was right behind me during some of those missions. I could see him just bite down and fix his gaze on me saying, "Good work, kid." You know that whole, I'd smile but my face would crack, look Dad would get. At least from all the vids he made for me, I assumed that's what that look meant. Really wish I could have seen his face outside a holo. I don't know, I'm just rambling. Not a lot of time before I jump ship for the new gig, and I'm not sure when I'll be able to write again. I was really looking forward to coming home and seeing everybody, but don't let my absence prevent you folks from having a good time. I'll be there in spirit and freeze the leftovers for me. Love, Lance.